The person who swears eternal loyalty to you today will be the first to show your enemies the way to your house tomorrow for a handful of silver or a minute of fame. Human nature is unchanging, and it craves what you have. Real snakes are masters of the art of mimicry as loyal allies, but they are given away by details you're used to ignoring. Stop being a blind donor for those waiting for your demise. Learn to see the cold glint of scales under the suit of a dear friend. You feel that strange tingling between your shoulder blades when you turn your back on someone you call a brother. Your palms become cold when you share plans for the future, and see how for a fraction of a second, a calculating coldness flashes in the eyes of your listener instead of joy. You feel a strange heaviness in your stomach after every evening spent in the company of people who supposedly wish you well. Your sleep has become intermittent because your subconscious is already keeping track of all the inconsistencies in their words and suspicious pauses in their stories. You physically feel how the space around you shrinks and the air becomes sticky with unspoken envy. Your brain sends alarm signals through a slight tremor in your fingers and sudden flashes of irritation that you try to suppress with logic. You are surrounded by those waiting for your fall to tear your inheritance to pieces. Your nobility has blinded you and made you an easy target. You stand on the edge of an abyss, and the hand that supposedly supports you is actually already beginning to slowly push you into the void. This physical sensation of an inevitable blow is your only hope for salvation. If you do not learn to trust your pain, you will become food for those who only know how to crawl and bite. Recall the moment when you last talked about your triumph. You saw that shadow that ran across the face of your listener. It was not a passing sadness, it was a convulsion of suppressed rage from the fact that you were once again higher. You feel how in moments of your success, the atmosphere in the room becomes thin and you seem to lack oxygen. You feel physical weakness in your knees when you realize that people to whom you trusted your most secret mysteries use them as levers for future manipulation. You see how their eyes remain dead and cold while their lips utter standard phrases of approval. You feel like a gladiator in the arena who understands that the spectators in the front row are his former friends who put all their money on his death. You feel a burning in your eyes from sleepless nights spent in attempts to justify their strange behavior. You look for logic where there is only a naked instinct of consumption. Feel how your confidence in tomorrow flows through your fingers because you no longer know who to lean on. You feel like an architect building a skyscraper on a swamp full of vipers. You feel how your creativity dies under the weight of suspicion because you are afraid to release a new idea into the world, knowing that they will immediately try to steal or devalue it. This is your soul, screaming to you that you are in a zone of radiation of human meanness. You feel betrayed, not just by specific people, but by the very idea of humanity. This is the deepest pain a leader can experience, the loss of faith in his followers. You feel the cold that comes from your phone every time a new message arrives from a person in your inner circle. You no longer expect support, you only expect another demand or a hidden reproach. Your heart turns into a piece of ice to protect itself from further wounds. You feel how your life turns into an endless chess game where you play against 10 opponents simultaneously, and each of them has an extra queen hidden in their sleeve. You feel how something new, cold, and ruthless is being born in you. And this transformation is accompanied by unbearable pain of growth. You feel how your inner world is being looted. Snakes do not just take your resources. They try to steal your peace and your faith in yourself. You feel a physical weight in your legs as if you are walking knee-deep in thick black tar. This is the resistance of the environment created around you by traitors to slow down your run to greatness. Feel this pain to the very bottom. Do not try to run away from it. Let it burn a hole in you through which everything extra and superficial will come out. You feel how your illusions burst like soap bubbles colliding with the harsh reality of human greed. You feel how your gaze becomes hard and piercing, capable of seeing through flesh and clothing straight into the black hearts of snakes. You feel your skin becoming coarse and impenetrable like the scales of a dragon. This is a protective reaction of your body to constant attempts to sting you. You feel how your connections with the world of snakes break with a crash, and this sound is now sweeter to you than any music. You feel how your loneliness becomes your fortress and not your prison. Your pain is the fire in which your new sword of sovereignty is forged. You must realize that loyalty is not a natural state of a person, but a temporary anomaly caused by the lack of more profitable offers. Niccolo Machiavelli, in the 18th chapter of The Prince, left us an icy instruction that a sensible ruler cannot and should not remain faithful to his promise if it harms his interests and if the reasons that prompted him to give his word have disappeared. Betrayal is embedded in the survival code. When your success becomes too apparent, it begins to cause physical pain to those who are close to you. This phenomenon is known as relative deprivation. To feel significant again, he must either rise to your level, which requires colossal effort, or pull you down to his, which is much easier to do, through a stab in the back. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that egoism is colossal and it towers over the world. If every person were given a choice between the destruction of the entire world and their own slightest inconvenience, they would choose the former without hesitation. When the sum of your superiority exceeds his ability to endure his secondary status, he hires himself out to your enemies. Machiavelli emphasized that people change masters in the hope of better things, and this hope makes them take up arms against the one who fed them. By the time the knife touches your back in his mind, you have already turned into a monster that must be destroyed for the sake of higher justice. The more you do for a snake, the faster it produces venom. Your mercy is the soil for future aggression. He who owes you his life will be the first to desire your death to prove his independence to himself. In the world of corporate wars and personal intrigue, switching to the enemy's side often gives the traitor a sharp spike in status and resources in the short term. He feels like a clever strategist who has outsmarted the system. If a snake sees that you have weakened, it will bite without hesitation. Brutus and Cassius were not his enemies from the very beginning. They were his protégés, people whom he showered with favors and positions. But it was the proximity to the source of power that birthed in them a thirst for that power. Betrayal is always a matter of distance. Too close a distance kills your security. Your trust is essentially your laziness. You are too lazy to check the facts, you are too lazy to control the processes, and you are too lazy to analyze motives. You must be prepared for the fact that tomorrow morning your right hand will refuse to shake your hand. Why do you ignore these obvious things? Because modern culture has poisoned you with ideas of unconditional love and transparency. There is no transparency in nature. There is camouflage, there are ambushes, and there is mimicry. They can wait for years like Jesuits or ancient assassins. Time for them is simply an ally in the business of putting you to sleep. As soon as one person in your environment begins to show disrespect or hidden aggression, the others begin to observe closely. If you do not suppress this immediately, you give a signal to everyone else that you can be betrayed with impunity. Your desire to see the best in people is a form of egoism. You want to live in a comfortable world where everyone is kind. A snake in your house is the result of your own unwillingness to see the world in its true light. You created the conditions for its growth yourself. Ultimately, betrayal is a way of redistributing power. If you do not grow, if you stagnate, your environment begins to look for a new center of power. You must earn loyalty every day through the demonstration of strength and utility. If you have ceased to be useful or strong, prepare to be eaten. The first sign is excessive flattery and mirror imitation. A snake does not just praise you, it creates a cocoon around you out of your own ego. Start saying strange things. Start changing your habits and see how quickly the snake adjusts to your new rhythm. If it follows your every turn, it means it is not a person, but a hunter. The second sign is information gathering under the guise of care. A snake is a professional interviewer. She asks questions that seem innocent, but in reality they are aimed at finding your Achilles' heels. Every answer of yours is a file in her folder of compromising evidence. If someone insistently climbs into your soul, it means they are looking for a place to drive a nail. The third sign is devaluation of your enemies in your presence. The snake convinces you that your opponents are worthless, so that you stop fearing them and stop collecting information about them. The one who lulls your vigilance is your true enemy. Recall how the military commanders of Charles XII convinced him of the weakness of the Russian army before Poltava, which led to a catastrophic defeat and the collapse of Swedish greatness. The fourth sign is disappearance in moments of your minor crises. A snake is an investor who invests only in rising stocks. As soon as your quotes begin to fluctuate, she takes her capital of attention. A friend is the one who stands in the ranks when shields are cracking, and not the one who celebrates at the feast after the victory. The fifth sign is spreading rumors about others in your presence. This is a test of your moral flexibility. Remember that in the Vatican of the Borgia era, the walls had ears and tongues were sharpened like razors, and everyone who brought gossip today became its object on the way to the scaffold tomorrow. The sixth sign is sudden flashes of passive aggression. This is the breakthrough of true feelings through the mask. If you swallow these insults, it moves on to larger doses. The Machiavellian answer is an immediate and cold counterattack. You must show the snake that its poison does not affect you, and its teeth can be knocked out with one blow. The seventh sign is requests for unethical favors or the violation of your principles. The snake seeks to destroy your moral authority. If someone pulls you into the dirt, they do not want to help you. They want you to become as dirty as they are. Each of these signs is a symptom of a systemic threat. You cannot ignore them hoping for a miracle. A snake will not turn into a dove. It will only become larger and more dangerous. A relationship with a snake is a zero-sum game. It wins only when you lose. Look at your history. How many times have you ignored these signs? How many times have you forgiven what cannot be forgiven? Every such case is a crack in your foundation. Your vigilance must be as constant as your breathing. A snake fears light and clarity. When you begin to ask direct questions, demand clear reports, and set tough boundaries, the snake begins to feel discomfort. It is used to working in the twilight of understatement and false trust. Bring it out into the light, and you will see how it begins to writhe and look for an exit. This will be the moment of your liberation. Once a snake, always a snake. Cut off the head without thinking about how beautifully it knew how to sing your praises. Machiavelli, in his work on the Discourses of Livy, pointed out that the greatest danger to a ruler comes not from external enemies, but from those he allowed to get too close. Psychology states that there is a concept of the dark triad, including narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. People possessing these traits are often the most charming and charismatic in your circle. Arthur Schopenhauer, in his works on human nature, said that malice is simply stupidity directed at others. But betrayal is not stupidity, it is a perverted intellect. When a snake imitates you, it steals your identity to use it against you. Your readiness to open up to every passerby is a form of emotional promiscuity, which in a world of fierce competition is punished by the loss of everything. Your trust must be earned through years of trials, and even then it must not be absolute. A snake can sit in the next chair for years, carry out your instructions, and smile at your jokes. It waits for the perfect moment when your position becomes shaky, or when the price of your fall reaches its maximum. At that moment, it will not just leave, it will strike the most painful spot. You gave them access to your resources and your secrets. You armed your own assassin yourself. Your nobility in its eyes is simply stupidity. Your honesty is simply a lack of imagination. Machiavelli urged princes to be foxes to see traps and lions to crush enemies. Your environment is your ecosystem. If parasites have moved in, the entire system will begin to rot. A traitor is not only dangerous in themselves, they demoralize your loyal allies. Cleaning your environment is not a one-time action, but a constant process. You must regularly create situations of artificial crisis to see who stays by your side and who crawls toward the exit. Pause, breathe, I know that right now the faces of your friends, colleagues, and even loved ones are flashing before your eyes like frames from a horror movie. Your fear of loneliness is that very gap in the armor through which the snake will inject its venom. Admit it. You have been betrayed before, and you will be betrayed again if you do not shed your skin. Your pain is your only teacher who does not lie. Accept this cold, accept this silence. In it, a true sovereign is born. Your liberation from snakes is not an escape. It is a triumph of your mind over your instincts as a herd animal. Your loyalty must be directed only toward your destiny and your goals. All other people in your life are either tools or temporary fellow travelers. When you stop expecting an impossible holiness from people, you stop being a victim. You begin to see them for who they are, and this gives you power. A traitor leaves making room for your true power. Imagine an old oak in the center of a thunderstorm. Vultures circle around it, and snakes scurry under its roots, hoping that lightning will strike the trunk. But the oak does not try to negotiate with the snakes or feed the vultures. It simply drives its roots deep into the earth and stretches its branches toward the sky. The storm only strengthens its wood. The snakes burn in the fire, and the vultures are carried away by the wind. The oak remains alone, majestic and unshakable. Be this oak. Your roots are your knowledge and your will. Your branches are your great deeds. Your loneliness at the top is not a curse, but a sign of your superiority. Become this center of silence in a world full of hissing and shouting. Your sovereignty is invincible until you yourself give it into someone else's hands. Preserve it. Multiply it. Go forward through the forest of snakes without slowing your pace. If you felt how the ice of this truth cooled your head, you are ready to enter our circle. There is no room here for those who seek comfort. There are only those who seek strength. We do not promise you that it will be easy, but we promise that you will stop being prey. Your training in dark psychology and the art of power is only beginning. Stay in touch. Your fortress must be impenetrable. Your will must be law.